Coming up tonight on YCN News, there's a ban on outdoor burning in Vermont. Power outages reported in central New Hampshire today. And U.S. Senator Kelly Ayotte introduces legislation for a bridge repair in the Granite State. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN News, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, May 12th. I'm Laura James. Welcome to YCN News. A ban on outdoor burning remains in Windham and Bennington counties in Vermont. However, elsewhere in Vermont, the Commissioner of Forests, Parks and Recreation lifted the statewide order banning outdoor burning permits from being issued. The ban went into place 1 week ago. What helped lift it for all but 2 counties is the rain over the last 2 days or nights. The ban on outdoor burning in Windham and Bennington counties is expected to be lifted next Tuesday, May 19th. You may want to check out 2 online sites below for updates. Now, speaking of weather, the power went out in central New Hampshire after 3 p.m. today. Reports of a microburst, according to Seth Wheeler of New Hampshire Electric Cooperative, brought down several poles. New Hampshire Electric Co-op crews are working to make those repairs. As of our 6:30 p.m. broadcast, 490 residents are still without power in the towns of Wilmot, Sutton, Belmont, and Alton, New Hampshire. Wheeler stated they're hoping to have the power lines repaired and power restored to all homes by late evening. If you are in the affected areas, you can view an outage map at NHAC.com or call New Hampshire Electric Cooperative at 800-343-6432 to report an outage or check on the status or repair times. Well, March in New Hampshire can be far different weather-wise than in May. It remains to be seen how the difference will affect New London's voters' decisions at town meeting tomorrow night. Now, one of the articles on the warrant asks residents if town meeting shall return to its original March date. Residents Michelle Holton and Kitty Wilson shared their views on this question with YCN News.
I'd like to go back to the old days, not because I think it's a big deal, but we thought that there'd be more attendance at the May meeting, but it turns out that it's actually pretty much the same. I think it would be less confusing. I'll go either way, but I think it's important that people do get to come to town meeting because a lot depends on the vote that night, and sometimes there aren't really a great number of people on very important issues.
I am partial to March town meetings, I must admit. And it's only because we all feel like we're hibernating in March, and it's such a wonderful community event when we all come out and enjoy town meeting in March together. It brings the community really close together. We decided to try the May, and the numbers have not been very different. And so I would be happy to go back. But there are many elderly people who tell me that they have a much easier time coming in May, and I can understand that as well.
We'll bring you the results of New London's annual town meeting on Thursday. Meanwhile, local New Hampshire elections were held today in New London, Hanover, and Newport. YCN News will also bring you these results in our Wednesday night broadcast. The state of New Hampshire's bridges may get some help now that one of its U.S. senators introduced a bill to help states repair some worn-out spans. Kelly Ayotte says the bill, titled Strengthening America's Bridges Act, would use savings from reducing tax fraud to make those repairs. If approved, a fund would be created and the U.S. Department of Transportation would be authorized to make grants to states. The grants would allow states such as New Hampshire to get repairs done. Coming up on YCN News, a drill to test Vermont's response to radiological emergencies takes place tomorrow. The status of farming in New Hampshire, Lisa Cannell reports, and Mike Pizzone has a look at Sunapee and Newport baseball, along with a check on the weather when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Laura James. Farming in New Hampshire endures. YCN's Lisa Cannell explains.
Even as the world becomes more high-tech, Some business traditions remain steadfast, including local agriculture. If you like to eat, you've got to like agriculture, one person said about farm issues affecting New Hampshire's Sullivan County. Indeed, farming in this state is not as prevalent as it once was. Across New Hampshire, there are 4,391 farms. Of that number, 93% make $100,000 or less in gross earnings. In Sullivan County, where about 35 people met at the vocational high school in Newport to get an update on its farming future, they learned there are 298 farms in this rural and west central region of the state. The economic value of agriculture in Sullivan County tops $22 million. There are challenges for farmers here, including product labeling and crop care without dangerous chemicals. New Hampshire Farm Bureau Policy Director Rob Johnson told attendees last night about current livestock and animal care regulations making their way through the state legislature. Talk of a hot topic in agriculture nationwide, genetic engineering and GMO labeling was part of Johnson's talk. The State Farm Bureau is not opposed to voluntary labeling, but it opposes mandatory labeling, which can be deceptive, Johnson says. Despite the challenges of farming, it remains an important part of New Hampshire's culture, says field specialist and University of New Hampshire Cooperative Extension member Seth Wilner.
For me, it's the agrarian way of life. It's preserving the rural character, maintaining the open lands, and the new interest of where our food comes from and how it's grown. So the whole local food movement is giving local agriculture a resurgence again.
State Representative Bob Hefner drove to Newport to give his insights on all things farming in Sullivan County and the state. Hefner is chairman of the House Environment and Agriculture Committee. Hefner says New Hampshire's Department of Agriculture is one of the country's smallest standalone departments. Budget-wise, New Hampshire allocates about $5 million compared to Connecticut's $32 million.
It is really tough getting legislators from the city to understand agriculture. Let's face it, of the 400 legislators in the New Hampshire House, the vast majority of them come from urban areas where they don't have farms. They're 5 generations removed from the farm, and it's tough to get them to understand it.
Even so, with financial challenges, no one left the meeting feeling discouraged about the region's farming future. For YCN News, I'm Lisa Cornell.
To learn more about agriculture in New Hampshire, check out the 2 websites that you see on the screen. Well, this is only a test. That's the heads up being given to all Vermonters and businesses regarding a test scheduled for tomorrow morning near the Vermont Yankee Nuclear Power Plant in Vernon. State agencies will partner with nearby town leaders in a radiological exercise. The drill will test the state's ability to respond to a hostile action event at or around the power plant beginning at about 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. The drill will continue until mid-afternoon. It's part of a required exercise every 2 years in states that are within 10 miles of a nuclear power plant. Entergy, which owns Vermont Yankee, shut down its reactor in December of 2014. Federal law dictates these safety drills to be conducted around the plant until further notice. The public may see people wearing white suits and carrying monitoring equipment. There will not be any weapons representing any hostile action in this safety drill. Well, motorists in Charlestown, New Hampshire may notice changes in traffic flow and parking on 3 roads in that town. Municipal Administrator Dave Edkins tells the Eagle Times traffic flow on Depot and Railroad Streets will be changed later this spring or early summer. Parking patterns on Main Street also will be altered. This is to improve driving and pedestrian safety. Well, coming up on YCN News, River Valley Chronicles, Elizabeth Durazio talks to Tanya Peck of Sugar River Healthcare when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Mike Pizzone. It turned into a relatively wet one this afternoon, but it looks like things will begin to clear up over the next couple of days. There's a 30% chance we could see some thunderstorms this evening, with wind gusts of up to 30 miles per hour and a low of around 48 degrees. Things will be a lot more stable tomorrow with mostly cloudy skies and a high of 59 degrees, and clouds will break up in time for the evening, making for mostly clear skies and a low of 34. Thursday will be the brightest day of the week so far, with clear skies and a high of 67 degrees during the day, before bottoming out at about 41 Thursday evening. Now let's take a look at our community calendar for some unique events in the region. The Silsbee Free Public Library in Charlestown, New Hampshire is hosting a family game day tomorrow from 3 to 7 p.m. Both children and adults are welcome to join in on some friendly board game competition or cribbage action. Bingo night will be held tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the Charlestown VFW Post Hall on Lovers Lane Road in Charlestown, New Hampshire. Food and soft drinks will be available. The Hall's bingo nights are the primary fundraisers for scholarships and various community donations. The Wellness Connection for a Healthy Lake Sunapee region is offering mini grants to support small, short-term projects by local nonprofit organizations to make it easier for community members to be active and access healthy foods. Grants of between $500 and $2,000 will be awarded. Visit the website on the screen to apply. The Newport baseball team didn't get Sunapee's best effort when the teams met last week, making yesterday's rematch all the more intriguing as the non-divisional rivals faced off for the final time this season. And while the final score may not suggest it, Newport's win yesterday was a lot more tightly contested as the visiting team posted 7 runs over the game's final 2 innings with Sunapee down a man due to an injury to wrap up a 10-3 victory. Things remained scoreless until Spencer Coronis' sacrifice fly in the top of the 4th inning drove in the first run of the game, before Andrew Hood's RBI single moments later put the Tigers up 2-0. The Lakers responded in the home half of the inning, however, making it a 1-run game when freshman Nick Ducharme laid down the bunt on this well-executed squeeze play to play Isaiah Gorman from third. Sunapee knotted things up later in the inning when freshman Will Palin's groundout made it 2-2, but Newport was quick to reclaim the lead in the 5th thanks to a leadoff double off the bat of Brady Bates, and this RBI single from Derek Perry that made it 3-2. The Tigers added 2 more runs in the 6th before Ben Robinson's RBI single pulled Sunapee within 5-3, but the visiting team pulled away from there to improve to 5-3 on the season. Coronis earned the win from the mound, allowing 2 earned runs on 5 hits and 5 walks while striking out 6 through 5 1/3 innings. Cole Cruz suffered the loss for Sunapee, surrendering 3 earned runs on 8 hits and 5 walks. I spoke with Coronis after the game, who said his team switched up its game plan after having faced the Lakers just last Monday.
We took what Hoodie did last the week that they played on last Monday, and we just wanted to do something different this time. We want to give them a little more off speeds than they were used to, especially the top of the order with Mikey Platt, Benny Robb, and Cole Cruz in them. So we had to keep them a little bit off balance, which I think we did a pretty good job. And I got to hand it back there to my catcher for doing all the stops and so making the calls, and the George and all those guys over there. So.
Coronis added that his team is headed in the right direction with 3 wins in its last 4 games, and will need to continue playing with confidence going forward.
We got to have confidence in ourselves. That's what it's had to be all year. Pitching's there, fielding's there. We just got to get our bats rolling a little bit here. And I think we're going in the right direction right now. We had a lot of hits today, and we just got to keep it going.
That's so getting in.
The Tigers will face Stevens in a home and away doubleheader tomorrow, and Sunapee will be back in action today at Epping. The Hanover baseball team rallied back from a 5-0 deficit to take a 1-run lead in the 5th inning, but couldn't hold on from there, suffering a tough loss at the hands of Milford yesterday. Josh Goodrich led the Marauders with a pair of RBI, while Rohan Kumar and Nick Racius each finished with a pair of hits. Parker Thurston surrendered 8 hits and 4 walks while striking out 4 in a complete game effort. Hanover is now 1-6 and will host Souhegan tomorrow. The Newport softball team avenged a disappointing loss to non-divisional rival Sunapee last week, earning a 1-run victory in yesterday's rematch. The Lakers outscored Newport 3-0 over the game's final 3 innings, but it wasn't enough to continue the team's 7-game win streak. Samantha McNeil earned the victory from the circle, allowing just 1 earned run on 5 hits and 2 walks while striking out 5. Lexi Hamilton and Jessica Parsons each drove in runs for Sunapee. Newport improved to 5-3 with the win and will be back in action tomorrow with a home and away doubleheader against Stevens, and 7-2 Sunapee will travel to face Epping today. The Hanover boys lacrosse team fell behind early, but rallied back in time to clinch a 7th straight victory with a hard-fought win over Nashua South yesterday. The Marauders trailed by 2 goals at halftime, but turned it on from there, led by a 5-goal effort from Connor Austin. Ben Acker also played well for Hanover, finishing with 4 goals and an assist. Xander Lingelbach-Pierce earned the winning goal, finishing with 12 saves. The 10-2 Marauders will host Manchester Central today. That does it for YCN Sports. I'm Mike Pizzone.
Thanks, Mike. Capital Connections host John O'Connor is talking with Carol Lighthall. She's the Executive Director of Springfield on the Move. Part 2 of John's interview is coming up when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.